Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War. Thanks for joining us. We do a podcast every night, apart from last night when the studio crapped itself, but we're back tonight. We have a 3-hour radio show, iOS, it's only sport, on the Platform, Monday through Friday, and this is the highlights of, including Justin Marshall. A good old rugby chat about the upcoming World Cup games this weekend. David Morrow from the Continuous Call team, that's 2GB. David with his thoughts on Wars away Brisbane and Melbourne away Penrith. Is it as cut and dried as the top two teams going through, or maybe not so? Ryan Fox, fresh from the greatest win of his golfing career at the BMW in Wentworth. How's he feeling a couple of days later after picking up $2.6 million? Let's talk some sport. As always, we begin the show, tablets in hand. I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Wanted to do this one yesterday, so let's do it today. Come on, rugby, bring the fun back as we go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Fun. The key difference between rugby and league in this country, as evidenced by the situation and public reaction regarding the All Blacks at the moment and the Warriors, is fun. One little word, 3 letters, fun. The Warriors have it. They exude it. They embrace it. Whereas rugby in New Zealand, via NZR, want to control it. The Politburo out of Wellington wouldn't know genuine, impromptu, spontaneous fun if they fell over it. They're control freaks. Like that old German joke where the crowds have it written on a whiteboard. The fun is between 3 and the 3:10. We will laugh. We will have the fun. What has happened with the Warriors this year, the near nationwide engagement, the many splintered podcasts and fan groups and YouTube channels, the whole Up the Wars thing, it's all taken off. It's been embraced, then exploded outside of official club ownership and governance. Our guy Zane, the Warriorholic, has not officially been endorsed or isn't part of the Warriors setup or their payroll. Neither is Richie Morgan, the drummer from Oz, who single-handedly has mobilised an entire Australian fan base, it seems. He buys block tickets. He's got away grounds to dedicate a couple of bays on halfway for travelling fans at every game. This has happened independently of, but alongside the club. Compare that to the All Blacks, who via NZR are so sanitised, homogenised. They've got to control everything about their social media and their interactions. It's also contrived and cheesy and made for a Women's Weekly front cover. It's also heavily PR schmucked. There's no real, there's no emotion. It's vanilla in its presentation, and it lacks any kind of real connection, other than, of course, the predictable 100 people who I imagine, or I suspect, are probably paid to write gooey, favourable comments about Anton Leonard-Brown going to present a jersey to the Namibian player, while the whole time he's got fried bum face. He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. And they plaster this all over their social media, and we're meant to kind of buy into it. New Zealand rugby need to lighten up, embrace the fans, accept the good with the bad, accept the fact that people are going to get irate about the team. They're going to criticise the team at times, and that is a good thing. Stop trying to control everything. Sport is meant to be fun. The Warriors have it and they're showing it. And New Zealand rugby, you need to get some.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
First up, though, headlines of a sporting bend. What do we got?
Plenty,
Go on.
Martin. There's always
Bring it.
plenty.
Bring
Even
it.
on slow sports news days, there's something to find in Japan or in Senegal or somewhere around the world. Despite a string of impressive performances as injury replacement driver, that is Kiwi, Liam Lawson, he's been running out for AlphaTauri behind the wheel of one of their F1 cars for the last 3 Grand Prix. But he has been reportedly been overlooked for a full-time F1 drive with that very team in 2024. Lawson's made a strong case to earn a seat for next season. But German motorsport outlet Auto Motorsport indicates the Kiwi will not be considered to remain in the AlphaTauri cockpit. Not a huge shock when you factor in all the politics at play with Japan and Honda and Yuki Tsunoda and whatnot, but a bit of a shame, but no doubt Liam Lawson will be rewarded with a drive at some point.
Well, we're going to go to Vincenzo Landino. Now, he's our guy out of the US. He is an F1 corporate management
marketing partnerships.
There you go.
He works with F1. Warriors coach Andrew Webster
Get his title in order there.
has stayed true to the team that smacked up the Newcastle Knights last weekend. An unchanged side named to take on the Brisbane Broncos in the NRL preliminary finals this Saturday night. It's a sold-out game as well up there at Suncorp Stadium. The winner of that, of course, going through to the NRL Grand Final. Locke Eben Etzebeth has been cleared fit to play for South Africa against Ireland in their Rugby World Cup heavyweight clash this weekend. That's on Sunday morning New Zealand time. Coach Jacques Nienaber opting for 7 forwards on the bench for the fixture. They could very well decide the group. 7 forwards, 1 back. Well, where do we see that? Talking football news. Spain's World Cup winning women's players don't plan to end their boycott of the national team despite being called up for the squad by new coach Montse Tomé. The players said they were caught by surprise by the call-up after they had made clear their decision not to play for the national team until their demands for a change at the Spanish Football Federation were met. A couple of noteworthy results in the Champions League this morning. The English team's playing Man City. I think they were down 1-0 but ended up winning 3-1 against, now let me pronounce this, or attempt to pronounce this. Where's it going? There it is. Crvena Zvezda.
Let me guess, somewhere around
Zvezda.
the Balkans.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They beat Man City, winning that game 3-1. Newcastle did pretty damn well. They played away to AC Milan, a 0-0 draw there, so getting a point in their first Champions League fixture in a very, very long time. Barcelona got a 5-0 victory over Antwerp. Celtic losing to Feyenoord 2-0. PSG beating Dortmund 2-0. But the moment of the day came from Lazio goalkeeper Ivan Provedel, who came forward and headed in a stoppage time equaliser to earn his side a 1-1 draw with Atletico Madrid. Go back and watch the footage of this. I think I saw
That's
it on...
only the second time ever a keeper has scored in the Champions
And
League.
he times his run perfectly
I'm
as
not
well.
talking about penalties. I'm talking about score. It's a brilliant header.
Yeah, he does very well. Yeah. This is quite a troubling story. Former NFL player Sergio Brown is being sought by police after the death of his mother. Police in the Chicago suburb of Maywood said that Brown's mother, 73 years of age, her name was Myrtle Brown, was found dead on Saturday after family members alerted authorities that neither could be located. So maybe he is also in danger or could be could have a hand in her death maybe. Other than that, for the time being, not a huge amount going on in the sporting world, Martin, so that is what is making news.
Devlin,
Oh my goodness me!
the platform.
Justin Marshall, 81 Test veteran for the All Blacks. This guy is the best rugby analyst in New Zealand. He is absolutely world class, calling the Rugby World Cup for Super Sport in South Africa. Just a good old chinwag about some of the major matches happening this weekend, because the All Blacks were pressing pause on our team, but we've got South Africa versus Ireland, we have got Wales versus Australia, we have got Manu Samoa versus Argentina. Awesome weekend of Rugby World Cup coming. Look, and I was only just reminded yesterday, because you kind of lose it while the tournament's going on, that one of these teams could be out in the quarterfinals. On the other side, one of us in France, it could be out in the quarterfinals, but 2 of those 4 teams aren't going to make it. How do you approach this game if you are South Africa and Ireland? Do you go hell out in this game? Do you hold back? How do you do it?
Oh, I think you do. You've got to go at it full throttle, and I believe both sides will do that. I think Andy Farrell's very much shown in the 2 games already in pool play that he's quite prepared to put out most of his top players, and he's also shown that they've got good depth when they bring those reserves into the starting team. But certainly for this weekend, I believe that he will field his best teams. I certainly know, having been around the Springbok camp over the last 3 or 4 days and talking to the guys that I'm working with here at Supersport, that they firmly believe South Africa will approach it in exactly the same way as well. So, yeah, I think you've got to make a statement. You've got to show everybody in this tournament that when the big matches come, you can go out there, you can flex your muscles, and you can win them. And I think that's really important for both teams' psyche.
South Africa are naming a 7-1 split again on the bench. I suppose what I'm trying to get at here is, do you hold something up your sleeve? Are there secrets? I suppose there's a backline move that you may not let go until a quarter or a semi-final, but essentially, Test match rugby, Justin, how much can you hide or can't you?
I don't think you can, but we all know, and they know as well, South Africa, that is of their DNA at Rugby World Cups. They don't tend to deviate too much from it. They know where their strengths are. Yes, we saw some innovation, some footwork, some skill at the weekend when they played Romania. But when it comes to these big matches, that they have a certain way that they play. It's like they played against the All Blacks at Twickenham. They're very confrontational. Their method defensively is aggressive, and that they don't sort of gravitate too far away from what they know they can play the best rugby under, and that's a game plan that has proved to be successful at World Cup. So, yeah, I would imagine that's just them being them, and they'll know what they can do with their bomb squad when it comes off the bench as well, and that's a real plus for them. I think, Malcolm Marx is a massive loss for them.
Yeah.
He was probably playing the best rugby I've seen him play in years and years, and Umbanami is still a very, very good player, and he captained the side the other day, but Marx was in such good form. He's a bit of a blow.
Look, I also think, he's kind of an inspirational leader in that as well, isn't he? I mean, he's built like a bloody Sherman tank for a start. I mean, he looks so impressive when he comes on. Every time he hits a ruck against us, he seems to come away with the ball. But he's just one of those players, I reckon, that the rest of them will probably look to. Justin, in terms of Ireland, they've ticked every single box. They came down here. They beat us in a series. I mean, repeat that out loud. Nobody bloody does that. Then they clean up the Six Nations. Is this yet another test for them? Because I don't know why, mate, but I'm still in the back of my mind are these nagging, lingering doubts. Can they produce this at a World Cup?
Yeah, and that's what everybody's saying, but the evidence is showing completely different. And in the last couple of years, they've beaten every team in the world, and they are number one team in the world right now, and ranked rightly so. And they've got depth, they've got experience, they've got X factor, they have it all. They've got a back row that's just tough and competitive. Van der Fleur's named European Player of the Year. They are very well drilled. Their props are mobile. They're ball players, and all under the guidance of Sexton as well. So, yeah, look, I don't know why people are writing them off. I certainly feel that they can win this tournament, and I would believe that they believe that as well. And again, at your peril, do you dismiss them as not being able to win a Rugby World Cup simply because history shows they haven't done it before?
Justin Marshall, 81 tests for the All Blacks. He's calling it all for Super Sport over at the Rugby World Cup. And just listening to you while you're saying that, I wish you were talking in those kind of terms about our team. Here, as I was saying, we're not going to mention the All Blacks, but I just don't know whether we're in the same breath as these guys at the moment. I want us to be, and hell, prove me wrong in the quarterfinal, lads, but at the same time, right now, these two teams appear to me to be better than us.
Yeah, well, look, again, we've got to look at what happened at Twickenham and what happened at the Stade de France, don't we? And that really much showed that we have some vulnerability. In saying that, I certainly saw enough in that opening game at times until we lost our mojo, and we all very well know what happened there, that we can compete. It's just about whether mentally this side can get there. But, I certainly feel that the All Blacks are a side that, should they discover that little bit of a missing DNA part of their game that is just off at the moment and really start to fire, then they can compete with South Africa and Ireland. They can compete with anyone in the world, but they've just got to get that right, and they're running out of time.
How much of that, before we move on to Wales, Australia, and then Argentina, Samoa, Scotland, Tonga, so as I said, some cracker games, how much of that, mate, having been there, is mental, is just confidence, is just this team gelling again and saying, come on, look at what we did in the first four games of this year. We've beaten this team. We know we can do this.
Yeah, a lot of it is. And again, I said Andy Farrell, he's just putting out his big guns each week, and I was not in favour of the All Blacks doing what they did. Yeah, and
you talked about it a lot, mate. Yeah,
exactly, and they did it. Damien McKenzie had a great game, and so did Cam Roigard, and others featured prominently as well. But at the end of the day, they will not be starting the quarterfinal. So what on earth was the point in giving them game time? Like I think I've banged this drum many times with you that those guys needed to be given a run off the bench. We've got enough depth. We've got enough players that are versatile. Should there be problems that can play multiple positions, that it wouldn't be a risk if they brought them on after 30 minutes or whatever. But what this team needs is they need to go to the well together. They need to get into really tough test matches, find their way out of trouble, which they haven't been able to do in recent games. When they're getting in trouble, they're not getting themselves out of it. So they need to galvanise. They need to play together. They need to know each other. And rotating the squad doesn't enable that. So, hey, look, it was a great performance. They run up a cricket score. But I just don't feel that it's what this All Black team to win this Rugby World Cup needed right now. That starting 15 that'll start in the quarterfinal needed to be out there playing, and they need to play next week and the week after as well.
Let's look at Wales, Ireland. Wales, Australia. Forgive me. This group is just fantastic to watch, isn't it? Especially with Fiji beating Australia, throwing that cat amongst the pigeons. And now the Oz face a must-win game against Wales. Wales, if they lose that game, well, then it's going to come all down to points differential and things. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, this is a tough nut to really sort of crack and think about who's got, I guess, the form to win this game. Look, at times I thought Australia looked very, very ordinary, and Fiji, they are a side that, should you allow them to stay in the game, they'll do to you what they did to Australia, which is win unexpectedly. So you've got to wonder where Eddie Jones goes now. Who does he go for in the 10 jersey for a start off, and how does he get this side actually firing? Wales, they look pretty ordinary against Portugal. In fact, I thought the scoreboard flattered them big time. It was a cracking game. Let's face it, Portugal played really, really well. It took them down to that last minute to get a bonus point. So both of these sides, really, yes, you're right, both desperate to win. It's an important game for both of them. If they could get bonus points, that would really help as well. But I can't put my finger on exactly who's going to win. But I suspect if I was having to make a call, I think Wales might win.
What's George Gregan? I know that you've been hanging around with your old mate a little bit. What's he saying about this team and about Eddie Jones and how far they can go?
Well, he's a big fan of Eddie Jones, and he believes that he will still find a way somehow to do something, quite remarkable in this tournament. He said that it's just the way that Eddie operates, and he went back to type where he said, well, look when they were writing him off and asking him to get the sack for England, and all of a sudden, bang, they win a test match, a massive test match out of nowhere. He said this will be a real blow, but this will trigger something in Eddie for a massive response. And he said he still believes that Australia can get out of their pool, so he's feeling pretty confident, and he's got Eddie's ear. They chat a lot.
Okay. Well, knowing both of them, that's quite a lot of chat, Justin, with all due respect.
It certainly is. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when those conversations are happening. It'd be entertaining.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. We need one ministry, the Ministry of Common Sense, with a benevolent dictator in charge. That's me.
Next!
Quick couple of questions before we go to Dylan Walker and some quotes yesterday from his presser, and then Vincenzo Landino out of the US for us, F1 corporate marketing. That's the hat that he wears. What does he know about Liam Lawson? And is it true that Liam won't get a ride with Alpha Tauri next year?
Next!
Who's winning? I'm going to go through these games. Who's winning them? First up, in order that they will be played, Argentina, Samoa.
I'll play safe and go Argentina. It'll be what time is it on?
3:45 Saturday AM.
Cracking game.
Well, I'm going to set the alarm for this one. I won't watch it live, but I'll get up and I will watch it. I'm so hoping Samoa can do this. If they do it, they could go through to the quarterfinal. How good would it be to have two PI countries in the quarterfinals, Fiji and Samoa? Maybe then World Rugby might actually look at the Pacific Islands and go, okay, we have to resource you guys. Actually, it could even work the reverse, isn't it? Yeah, well, when it happened in 91.
I was going to say, what happened 30 years ago?
Well, they put the lid back on, didn't they? And say, we love having you guys at the World Cup and we love having you playing for our clubs and our teams. Not so keen when you all get together and actually as a country start beating us. South Africa versus Ireland. Who wins that?
I'm leaning towards South Africa.
Same. Why? Because they dicked us at Twickers?
Well, I just think they're a better team.
No, you've still got doubts. You still have doubts about Ireland like most people have.
I don't have doubts. I just, I don't know. I just think they're a more tournament-hardened team, the Springboks. I mean, they won it 4 years ago. So it's because Ireland haven't got through to a semi-final yet? Well, I guess it's the experience versus the inexperience. I mean, Ireland haven't gotten past the quarterfinals, sure. It's a different coaching group now, and it's, they've been in sensational form for really 4 years. Mm-hmm. The Springboks have the players that have won it before. They've got this incredibly bruising forward pack that's so hard to wear down. They also have really explosive outside backs when they use them. The positions where they've had injuries leading into the tournament, particularly first five, the players who are playing those positions now are playing really well.
As Justin says, they know how to play these tournaments.
And they've got a coaching group who know how to win these games. So I just, they won the tournament 4 years ago. I just lean towards that experience.
Scotland versus Tonga. I'm sorry, Tonga. I can't see you winning this guy. I mean, Tonga drew the worst group. Let's be honest. The Yarpies, the Mix, and the Jocks.
Yeah.
Look, I wouldn't be confident the All Blacks getting out of that group. Now.
No, they wouldn't.
Okay.
They wouldn't get out of that group.
I feel for you, Tonga.
Next.
Wales versus Australia, and I'm going to ask you the same question tomorrow too. This
Australia.
Yeah?
Yeah, just. Again, a bit like South Africa, I just think they're better. I don't know. It's two awful teams. I think Wales...
Thank you, because neither of them are great.
No.
And one of them is going to be in a quarterfinal and probably...
Could well be in a semi-final.
Semi-final.
Yeah.
And we might be coming home early.
We probably are coming home early.
Yeah.
Next.
Finally, then, in this bout of questions, and we are going to play a game of what is more chance happening before 2 o'clock. After 2 o'clock, David Morrow, continuous call team, as well as at ARU, Andy Raymond Unfiltered. It does every Wednesday. And we'll talk NFL. HK at FB Garbage Time joins us to wrap up round number 2. But Justin Marshall, when we spoke to him...
What this team needs is they need to go to the well together. They need to get into really tough test matches, find their way out of trouble, which they haven't been able to do in recent games. When they're getting in trouble, they're not getting themselves out of it. So they need to galvanise. They need to play together. They need to know each other. And rotating the squad doesn't enable that. So, hey, look, it was a great performance. They run up a cricket score. But I just don't feel that it's what this All Black team to win this Rugby World Cup needed right now. That starting 15 that'll start in the quarter-final needed to be out there playing, and they need to play next week and the week after as well.
Why won't the selectors get into his headspace and do this, Lachlan?
I just think they are so convinced that what they're doing is the right thing to do. Resting players so that they're fresh.
If it works, it's the right thing to do. If not, they are going to continually wear it, aren't they?
Well,
For
this
the fact
happened in 2007, and they wore it. So why are they still doing it? I don't get it.
I don't get it. But just in case you are losing faith, people, Justin also says...
I believe in this team, and I believe in those players, and I believe in the All Black brand and our attitude and our ability to win big games and our ability to win Rugby World Cup. So I'm a believer, and I know that this team can do it.
5050 on the text in here at the platform. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War, iOS, it's only sport. So thanks for the text messages. Edwin says, afternoon, lads. We moved to daylight saving as well this weekend. Do we? Well, that's the first I've heard.
Don't we move in October?
I always thought it was Labour weekend.
No, it was always before then.
Was it?
Because Labour weekend.
I thought it was Labour weekend to Easter. It always used to be. Oh God, Edwin, you're probably right. Does that change the game times here in New Zealand up the Broncos?
Yes,
Good
Edwin.
Lord, we don't
yes,
get-
no.
we don't
Good
get many
boy,
of those.
Edwin.
Thanks for the great show as well, Edwin. Thank you very much for the kind compliment. If that's the case, I've completely cocked up here. I've got it wrong. I thought that the daylight saving thing, like the France were coming back to us, but maybe it's because we're moving. Yeah, you could well be right. What it does mean, though, is that when we wake up on Sunday...
it's the last Sunday in September.
So we change. Okay, so what it basically means is those Sunday and Monday games, which were at 3:45 a.m. and 7 a.m. New Zealand time, are now going to be at 4:45 and 8 a.m.
this weekend, yeah.
New Zealand time. It's the greatest triumph so far of a brilliant professional golfing career for Ryan Fox, winning the BMW at Wentworth. And behind him, the whole of the European Ryder Cup team. This guy had to find his best form at the right time. Just a thrilling victory. And rated by our own Brendan Telfer as one of the best four ever for any New Zealand golfer. A couple of days after winning in Wentworth. How are you feeling, Ryan? Is that the best you've ever played?
Definitely that back nine. I mean, if you take out the third hole, well, actually just the third tee shot on Sunday, I don't have much better. I pretty much didn't miss a shot bar that tee shot. And, I would say, that back nine could well be the best 9 holes of golf I will ever play in my career, considering the circumstances. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome, to be honest, to do it in that company, to do it in that type of event, and do it when it really meant something. And yeah, I still don't quite believe it. I'm probably quite nervous thinking about what happened, even though at the time I was very calm and just dealing with what was coming in front of me, which was it was as in the zone as I've ever been.
That was exactly what I was going to ask you. You know, all athletes talk about this, that all of a sudden it just feels like everything I'm doing it exactly right, and I don't even have to think about it. Is it that kind of feeling?
It was, and to be honest, I haven't had it very often in golf. You know, you get it maybe every now and again in a social round when you just don't think about it and it happens to come out all right. But I've always sort of maybe not struggled to get into it, but not quite understood what it meant in the tournament. Even though I've won and done lots of good things, I've always, been conscious of it, if that's the right way to put it. Whereas on Sunday, it was literally just get up, hit it. Okay, that's where I need to hit it, and without almost any feedback, it went exactly where it was supposed to go, which was very cool. And I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel under pressure. I felt very cool and calm, which is very, very different than I would have expected to feel in that situation.
It's almost like what you're saying is that you're not thinking about it. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. It just became so one shot at a time that not once did I have a thought about what winning would have meant at all. Like, obviously I had in my head that I was trying to win the golf tournament. That's what I wanted to do, and that's a good place to be. I wanted to beat the guys, but at no point did I think about who I was trying to beat, because I think if you're thinking about beating a charging John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton down the stretch, I probably would have done my head in. But I was just going, okay, I can control all of what's going on with what I do, and that's just what happened. It was almost a slightly out of body experience.
Wow. You had the whole goddamn Ryder Cup team behind you, mate. I mean, look at those names. Hovland. I mean, he's just won the FedEx. God's sake. Rahm, Fleetwood, McIlroy, Hatton. I can go down the list. I mean, that's who you beat. This is the great thing about it, isn't it? And this is what you've got forever now. Because I remember we've talked over many, many times and talked about what it's going to take to win a major and to beat these guys at a major. Well, I think you've just shown yourself exactly what. That is the blueprint, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's, I guess I'd always believed that I could beat those guys. I didn't quite know what it would take, but to now know that my best golf can beat them. They may play their best golf a bit more consistently than I do, but you can't. I played with Tyrrell on Saturday. He was playing great. Obviously, John Rahm is the world number 2 or 3 or whatever he is for a reason. He's the Masters champion this year. He is
right. Yep.
Playing great, and I know that my best golf can beat them, and that's pretty cool, and I can take a lot out of that going forward. That's for sure.
I go back to when you're sitting in the studio with me back at Radio Sport, and we were talking about Melbourne, and I'm going to go back there when you had Grant on the bag and everything, and things weren't going so well, and you're wondering whether or not you should even bloody do this as a job and everything, and you whatever your demons you managed to overcome at that time. I mean, just think about where you were then to where you were on the weekend. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, it shows what sport can do to someone both ways. That was the lowest I've been probably in tournament golf when I spoke to you before going to Melbourne. Was that probably 10, 11 years ago, something like that?
Yeah.
And that was potentially make or break for me in terms of career. If I hadn't had a decent result that week, which thankfully I did, that my career could have ended 2 weeks after that, and I would be, God knows what I'd be doing right now. And then, walking off that golf course on Sunday is the exact opposite of that. It feels absolutely on top of the world, and it is career defining in a very different way. It doesn't mean that it means a lot in terms of having a job going forward, but it opens so many doors where literally the other result was the difference between choosing something completely different or maybe still playing golf the next year. So it's amazing what sport can do, and I don't ever want to get to that low again, but I'd certainly love to love to live, that high of the weekend again. I mean, that's why you do it.
So awesomely proud of you, just on a personal, because I feel like, we've got to know each other a little bit over the last decade and more in there, and just so awesomely proud of you, man. And I'm not going to go in and ask you about all the things that have gone on this year, because you've had some beautiful things happen to you, and you've had the most crushing things happen to you as well. And life throws you all of these things, doesn't it? And then on the weekend, as you said right at the beginning of this, wow, something spiritual happens, man. Your swing comes together, you're in the right place at the right time for whatever set of circumstances, and life just dishes you up the biggest plate ever. It's just terrific, mate. I'm so proud of you and so pleased for you.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. I mean, the support from back home, not just from you, but from so many people, has just been incredible. And I think you put it right. It was spiritual's maybe not the right thing.
Yeah, I don't know what the word is, mate. Sorry, yeah.
But it's kind of like the golf gods. I've had a couple of tournaments where I felt like I've done enough to win, and someone else has done something incredible. And it felt almost like the golf gods picked me last week, like it was my turn to do something incredible to win a golf tournament. If that makes that, yeah, that's kind of what makes sense in my head at the moment, which is pretty cool, and it's a pretty good tournament for it to happen.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
We need to talk.
Yeah, we're playing.
We need to talk.
Lachlan, I'm going to present you a scenario. What is more chance of happening? I'll give you two and you choose between the two.
Next.
The Warriors beat the Broncos on Saturday night, or the Storm beat Penrith.
There's more chance, I think, that the Warriors beat the Broncos than the Storm beating the Panthers. If that's what you want to hear, there you go.
I just want to know an honest answer from you, mate.
Yeah,
is there a chance that both could happen?
Oh, absolutely. Of course there's a chance.
Yeah, David Morrow says. He says that, look, 1 and 2 should win these games, but
Next.
what is more chance of happening? The Warriors, riding a wave of Brewe, that's Brisbane Kiwi support, upset the Broncos, or Man United beat Bayern Munich away in the Champions League tomorrow, Lachlan?
I think there's more chance that Manchester United beat Bayern Munich in the Champions.
Seriously?
No.
We have less than zero chance.
No.
If we keep it to 3-0, I'll be delighted. How defeatist is that? And I don't even have BN because I'm not even...
Next.
What is more chance of happening then? The Broncos shite the bed.
Oh, steady on.
In Brisbane, lose to the Warriors, or Man United are back in the Europa League by Christmas and don't get out of the group stage.
That one, absolutely. That's got much more chance of happening. Man United will be knocked out of the group stage. Who's in your group? Bayern Munich,
Copenhagen,
they're
Galatasaray.
Well, Galatasaray, they're in. You don't want to take on a Turkish side.
No,
not this bunch of fannies.
No.
Next.
So what is more chance of happening then? Yeah, the Broncos get overturned by the Warriors, or Ryan Fox wins a major in the next 2 years.
Oh, come on. I think there's more chance that the Warriors beat the Broncos.
He's just proven he can beat the best in the world, mate.
Well, I know, but there's so many. And Ryan's done a stellar job. There's so many top golfers around the world. There's only 4 majors a year. There's so many great golfers that haven't won a major yet, or some that have, and they haven't been able to win one for like the last 9 years. In the case of Rory McIlroy,
the one and done, it's called, mate, for a lot of them.
So I think I'm not saying Ryan can't. I just think if you're talking about chances, the Warriors, I think, have a good shout against the Broncos.
Next.
Couple to go. What is more chance of happening then? That, as you say, or Liam Lawson misses out on a drive with AlphaTauri next year.
Oh, that's got more chance of happening.
Isn't that sad? I mean, and look, we don't know this for a fact, people, but all indications are, we talked to Vincenzo Landino today from F1 out of America. Everything that I'm reading and seeing, what a shame if that's the case, that the young man doesn't get a drive.
Next.
Final one. What is more chance of happening? Warriors beat the Broncos Saturday night, or 2 Pacific Island sides make the last 8 of the Rugby World Cup, and they would have to be Fiji and Samoa. And that would mean Samoa...
I think there's more chance that happens. I think there's more chance that Fiji and Samoa get to the knockout phase. Japan, not so great. Argentina, I don't think have been so great. Therefore, I think Argentina have only played 1 game, to be fair. But I think they have a really good chance of getting out of Pool D, and then Fiji at the moment are in the box seat to get out of Pool C. They've played their two toughest games.
They just have to keep winning. If Samoa beat Argentina on the weekend,
game on.
One game to go, Warriors fans. 80 minutes away from a grand final. Pinch yourselves. This is the fun bit. This is as good as it gets. So close now. A legit top 4 side. Warriors away Broncos. Storm away Penrith. Winner take all to meet for the premiership, the grand final. David Morrow is captain and lead caller for 2GB's continuous call team and joins us. Prior to the Warriors stepping up against Newcastle, and what impressed me the most about that game, I'll bore you for a second, was simply that the Warriors played really well when they had to play really well. The best performance of the season in the most important match. And so being able to lift up a level to that finals level. And after the Penrith game, I think a lot of us didn't know whether or not the team had that in them, but they did. So my long-winded question is, does it change the Brisbane mindset after watching the way the Warriors demolished the Knights?
I don't think it'll change the way they play. I think that Kevin Walters would have said, look, we just got to go out and play our game, and if we play to the best of our ability and if the form board's right. I think the problem with anything to do with the Warriors is they've got match winners that can produce the goods. I mean, obviously Sean Johnson and Nickel Klookstad probably played his best game all season last weekend, which is great news from the Warriors' point of view. And the forwards did exceptionally well. I mean, we've all known how good the forward pack for the Warriors is. And, I'm a huge Tortu Harris fan. I thought, he's playing on one leg. He played like a man possessed the other day. Perhaps didn't get the raps he deserves. And, it's quite possible for them to beat this Broncos side. I mean, I know they flogged the Storm first up, but the Storm, in Craig Bellamy's words, were more dreadful than any time I've ever coached. So...
and didn't a couple of their players said they were, well, I can't remember exact words, but they were RS or something like that, weren't they?
Dog poo was
Dog poo, was it? That was it. Yeah, that was it.
Craig from Munster, dog poo. We played like dog poo. Yeah, well, it was. Look, the end of the day is that it's 17 players against 17 players, and if you go out there with the mindset you can win, you can win. And I'm certain that and if Sean Johnson has had another week to get over that injury. You never know. You just never know. If it's a nice fine day, which it's meant to be, that'll suit the Warriors. I reckon that'll suit Sean Johnson playing them fast conditions. It's just one of those games. I won't be surprised if the Warriors win, and I won't be surprised if the Storm win, even though I'm going to be tipping the Panthers and the Broncos because you just think the best two teams in the season normally get to the grand final if they get a chance. But it mightn't happen. And I'd just like to see the Warriors. I mean, put it this way, the Warriors are going to have a lot of support at Suncorp. We all know that because Martin, the people at the Sunshine Coast especially fell in love with them. I know the people on the Central Coast did the first year of COVID as well. And they've got a lot more support up there than a lot of people realise. And I think that, they won't be running out to Suncorp to silence. They'll be running out to Suncorp for some rather raucous cheers, which will give them will lift them anyway.
David, you say it's 17 versus 17, so we could identify all the individual matchups and say this person against that person. How much now does it come down to the top 2 inches, which is always talked about, and again the belief that the Warriors can take in from playing so well in that must-win match against the Knights?
Yeah, all of that. I agree with you totally. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the two halfbacks have been outstanding all season, Reynolds and Johnson. I think the two hookers. Billy Walters is probably the most improved hooker in the competition. Wade Egan's playing at the top of his game. He's been outstanding. The two fullbacks are outstanding. And it possibly comes down to how the 5'8" perform. There's Ramam in his second season. Tamari Martin, an old veteran really in terms of footy. And he played against the Broncos, so he knows a little bit about the Broncos system. And it's normally they're the players that... Look, big games are normally won by forwards. And when you have a look at them, can you see who's going to win the forward battle? No, I really don't. Although I really think that the Warriors' back row is better than the Broncos' back row.
Wow.
But in saying that, there's a split inch in it, a split centimetre. Jackson Ford was outstanding last week. I mean, it's one mistake, one slip, one missed tackle. Let's hope it isn't a decision from Jared Sutton, the referee, that turns the game, like we saw one last week from Blinky Bill. But anyway, he's not there this week, thank God. I'm talking about Ashley Klein. See, these games are often won and lost on inches, centimetres. But the kicking game of Reynolds is going to be something they've got to come to grips with, and because he will kick to the corners. So the wingers are going to have to be spot on. I can't see him kicking. He will kick to the corners all day, put pressure on the wingers to bring the ball back. That's just the way they play it. But look, they've had games this year, Martin, the Broncos, where they have just looked downright awful, but so too are the Warriors. So it'll be interesting. First 20 minutes, if it's 0-0, the longer it goes that it's 0-0, the more the Warriors are going to say we've got a chance here.
It's certainly not going to lack for two teams that actually do believe, I believe, that they've both got a hell of a chance here. And the Broncos, that's on the basis of their whole season, plus, of course, whipping Melbourne like that. And a Warriors side that's playing with house money. And I go back to that game against Cronulla at the start of the year, David, where the Warriors were down a hell of a lot. And Sean Johnson, look, he won it late. And I remember him saying afterwards, we were in the dressing room at halftime and saying, what if we won this game? What a story that would be to tell for our families and everything else. And it was just, to me, that attitude shift. And if they can take that attitude into Suncorp, the same thing. What if? What say we shock the world here? Well, that's the thing. I mean, all you've got is, there's no pressure on them. I mean, the pressure of everyone in New Zealand wanting them to win, yes. But the pressure's all on the Broncos. They're $1.10 to win the game, or something like that. I mean, so the Broncos are expected to win and expected to win easily. They've got a passionate crowd. And the best way if the Warriors score first and take the crowd out of it for a while, that'll even give them more confidence. So, yeah, of course they're a chance. They're an enormous chance. Brilliant.
And the style of football they play, and they're not afraid to play in Brisbane because so many of these blokes spent the last couple of years up there. I mean, it's not as if where they're playing is a foreign. I mean, the only thing the Warriors got against them, of course, they've had to go there, they come to Australia, go back to New Zealand, win in New Zealand, come back home, and whether the euphoria for last week got to them. I don't know. You know, if Andrew Webster's settled them down quickly after last week's performance, and there hasn't been too much backslapping at home, and aren't you special? They'll come here mentally prepared, and the Broncos, of course, are going around Brisbane, and all they're getting probably from the Courier Mail is you're the best, you'll win this easily, you'll go down and win the grand final easily, you don't have to worry about this. And, it doesn't happen that way. One more question on this, then we'll turn our attention to the other game. But I'm just so looking forward to, and I know that you will too, that first hit-up where Whanua Blake goes looking for Payne Haas. Well, or Payne Haas goes looking for him. Yeah. It's an interesting one. But, you forget about that's all well and good, but Flegler and Barnett have had great roles to play and where their sides are as well. I think Mitch Barnett had a ball last week playing as Newcastle. He loved it. Yeah. And but I just look at the things and say, what difference between Payne Haas? There's no risk that Payne Haas and Adam Whanua Blake are the best two props in the game, and they're playing against each other. And you can have Fisher Harris is there, so the Kiwis have got to put in a number of holes at the moment. But I just think these two on form this year, and each and every week they put they do their best, and it's going to be an interesting matchup. And so even though they might cancel each other out, it's someone else that might lift beyond what they've produced before that gets them over the line. To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.